All right, we're good.
Hi. Hi, everyone. We are getting settled in right now. I'm doing the final marketing post as always. And today should be a fun one. I think Joe has been an inspiration lately because he's doing a lot of master studies. And one of the things I've been noticing is the way that he treats and handles skin. And I've been even watching a few YouTube videos with cynics and a couple other artists that I really respect how they do their skin, and I think that's why earlier this week I just wanted to do skin because it was just a popular request, but now I'm actually excited to not only do it but kind of test myself and experiment um, with doing some things with skin. So that should be a good one. Okay, I'm almost done.
Actually, I think I'm going to boost the post on all of my pages too.
Awesome.
The color
Boys,
of skin.
I am
What?
joined by, oh, sorry, I'm joined by Joe Chico, if you don't know who the other person talking is.
Hi.
He's our fantastic moderator here at CG Cookie.
Oh, I thank you.
Okay, I think we're good.
Is this the right link? Is this the one that sends people to the actual Hangout, or?
Should be, yeah. Oh, yeah, I probably should test that before I just jump into this.
No, I think it's good.
All right, because we had a stream one time where it was linking to the wrong thing, and
People were like, "Hey."
quite the problem. All right, yeah, we're good. All right, welcome everyone to the CG Cookie Wednesday live stream, and today it is on the color of skin. And I'm Tim Von Rieden, and I'm joined by Joe Chico, and today should be a good one. And if you have any questions, as with any stream that we always do, feel free to ask them, even if it doesn't pertain to what I'm working on. And ask them in the question field on the right, and Joe will feed them to me, and he'll moderate, hence the name, which questions to ask. Let me think if there's any other big announcements. Oh, on Concept Cookie, essentially, I told you guys last week that I was starting to work on the fundamental tutorial course, and I can tell you that there's 2 tutorials left, and they should be done by the end of this week, and it should be out by next week. So it's kind of the getting started for those who are literally, this is their first time in Photoshop, and I'll take you through everything from setting up your tablet to taking a quick overview on the interface, like looking at the main things you should know, because I think if you went too deep into it, it can get too much, and you really want to at least know the essentials so you can get going. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Joe, are you ready?
Yeah. We're getting some hellos from people already.
Oh, well, do you want to shout out the hellos from? Actually, I kind of like that. What every single week it seems the stream starts with you guys saying hello from a certain country. I really like that. So Joe, if you want to just take a couple as I switch screens here.
All right. Kate says hi. Carlos says hello. We already have questions from Andrew. Hello, Andrew. Andrew McKinney from our
Oh,
workshop.
hey Andrew, how you doing?
Micah is also here. And Samuel Dobbins. So, hello, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to my Photoshop canvas. Actually, I'm going to share my whole desktop because I also made a quick skin reference palette, and I think this is really something you should do. If you're going to just dive into working with skin, you should have a few references. Not only just a few, but a bunch of references, so that while you're working, you can get a quick look at how another artist did their work, or even a photo of someone, and be able to either color pick from it or study the way that the different colors line up, like right up against each other, and how that creates a form. So I'm going to share out my entire desktop. If you ever see any of the desktop elements, it's really messy, so don't judge me right now. It's been a crazy week. All right. So the topic of skin color and what color is skin. I think it's one of those questions that uh, a lot of people ask it, but they're asking the wrong question because this kind of relates back to gold. Gold isn't a color. And I always find it really funny when I look at like a gold crayon or something, because when I think of gold, I think of the all the different elements and colors that represent what gold is. So there's a lot of yellows, there's highlights, there's darks, and it's a reflective surface, so you're getting minimum of 5 colors if you want to do gold right. Now, skin I kind of put in that same category because when I think of what is the color of skin, it's a collection and multitude of colors. It's not just a single color. Now, I think when you get started, or if you went on it blind, let me hide, I'm going to move the head over that we got here. Your initial thought would probably be something like this color, and then maybe a little warmth in it in some areas, and maybe something a little more peachy. Like this would be the general first thought of what color skin is. But I want you guys to kind of take that to another level, and I want you to start incorporating more colors. So I'm going to even color pick from the side over here. And the way that we're going to do this live stream is I'm going to first do a master study, and then I'm going to do 2 blind. So I'm going to just work on the reference that I have and look at some of that, and then apply it to, actually I'm going to maybe, do I still have the line art from last week in here? Oh, I do. Okay, so maybe I'll take 2 of the line art from last week and I'll work on those. Which ones do I want to do? I'll do red and Louis. Okay, yeah, I'll do those 2. So those 2 I'll save for later. So now, as I'm creating my skin palette, I'm going to be looking at a multitude of different colors because you never know what you want your skin color to be. And it depends a lot. If you're working for more of or from a concept artist angle, you'll probably want like minimal amount of colors and something just to get the point across. But if you're working more for like an illustrative purpose, you want to be pulling from a bunch of different colors and not just your typical like light salmon or light brown colors. You want to be pulling from like oranges and blues and purples and colors that you wouldn't normally associate with the face color. But trust me, as we get into this, you'll definitely see how adding a multitude of these really interesting colors can create a much more like interesting palette overall, and just the composition itself will become that much more interesting because of it.
We are getting tons and tons of hellos from people.
Hello.
Dylan Ever says, "Hi, I'm from America, California."
Hello from America, Wisconsin.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Sydney says, "Hi."
Hello.
EVE says, "Hi from Germany."
I want to say Guten Tag, but I don't know if that actually means hello. I want to look ignorant.
And then we have Jay from Finland.
Hello.
So many hellos.
Okay,
Hello, everybody.
I think I'm pretty good with my palette, and you can see how it's a wide variety, and that's what I kind of wanted. And if you want, I think it's pretty nice to have a palette on the side or some kind of a way to pull from color. Photoshop, unfortunately, doesn't have like a little palette menu. I was kind of complaining to Joe the other night on why softwares like Corel Painter have a little palette on the side where you can mix your colors right there. I actually think, does Paint Tool, what is the one that Mel uses? Is that Paint Tool Sci?
Yeah, she uses Paint Tool Sci.
Yeah, because that has a mixer, doesn't it?
Yes, it has a blending mechanic in the software.
Yeah, I really wish Photoshop would add that. Hopefully in the next update or sometime in the future, that's what we'll see.
It's got that blending brush, but it's just not as good.
Yeah, a little disappointing. All right, so first things first, let's go pick a study that we're going to work off. Joe, who was that artist that you were looking at?
That was Repin. He's a Russian, I think.
Let's pick a fun one. And the reason I want to do a master study for you guys is so that you can really see how another artist not only saw realism but painted it, and they used their brushstrokes and the colors very carefully to recreate the appearance of skin. Oh, there's the one I think I want to do.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
oh those blues, so good.
it's gorgeous. And the other thing that I think is really important when you're doing studies, and I actually recommend all of you to do this. Joe's been doing a bunch of them recently, and I really do believe these help so much just to kind of break away from your usual thinking of how to go about doing your paintings. Where I even thought about this a lot last night, where I consider myself a very technical, precise, a precision artist. So everything has to be like very blended and I would almost say over rendered, where I want to be more impressionistic. So I think the best thing you can do is lay down your colors and let the almost over strengthen the colors and like really make them bold, because then you can always tone it down later, where I think I always start from a toned down point of view. So this one will be kind of fun because then I can go pretty bold pretty quickly and then tone it down, but also I can look at how the skin color there will probably be no light browns in this image right here. And I'm just pulling a few of the colors from the face right now, and I'm putting them on the side here. You would never look at these colors and think skin palette. But when combined in a very creative, intelligent way, you can see how it creates the illusion of skin. And it really depends on your lighting scenario and how you want the character to be portrayed. Where it's kind of another interesting thing where the color of skin, I'm not just talking about Caucasian, I'm talking about like any ethnicity. The color of the skin will highly depend on the lighting scenario you're putting them in and the mood, the overall mood that you're trying to create. So if I'm trying to put a character in like a bright sunny day, I'll probably work with more warm hues regardless of their ethnicity. So if it was more of a black person, I'd probably pull more purples and magentas for the highlighted areas, where if it was more Caucasian, I might pull more of the reds and pinks. So it just kind of depends on what your subject matter is and what their skin color is, and then working with it and really showcase the skin in the best light.
A lot of people are commenting on that the stream is starting an hour early. Um, I think we forgot to mention that daylight savings time that was this past weekend.
Oh, that's right. Everyone, sorry, the daylight saving, is that an American thing? I thought that was a world thing.
No, it's a world thing, but I think everywhere around the world is like making the adjustment over the week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had daylight saving time on Saturday of last week, I think. So officially it is 2 p.m. here. So yeah, sorry, we probably should have put that somewhere in the memo.
People are like, "What the heck?"
Oh,
Okay.
shit, I hope people don't come at 3 being like, what the heck? I thought you're an hour early.
When we start asking questions, we're starting to get tons of them.
Yeah, shoot. And I'm really excited for this one. So you guys don't hold back with your questions because I think this is a good one for learning.
All right. Man, a lot of skin questions. Okay, we'll start off with an easy one. Tim, how do you pick skin for your cartoon characters?
I will say for my cartoon characters, I go more for a generic. I'm wondering if I have any on my desktop. Please don't judge me when you see it. It's chaos. Okay, I do. I have one right there. Alright, so when I choose skin color for my cartoony style, I do stick with a very standard spectrum. So I'll put that palette over here. Because maybe there are a few of you that just want to know like what's a standard, almost generic palette to work with, and this is the one that I generally use. I'm just color picking here. So like that. I would say that's my standard go-to skin colors, but as you can see, it works pretty well for a cartoon or something that's a little more stylized, but if we want to go for more realism and put a little more interest in it, I'm going to choose a color palette that's more like this, where it's almost chaotic looking, where I almost think it's more fun when the palette doesn't like immediately remind the viewer of skin, because then you can have more fun placing those colors.
You know what my favorite part of doing master studies is?
What?
Laying in the background.
Really?
I know that sounds like so dumb, but it's just I really love seeing how they use the background and then the contrast that they actually use for the portrait of the person.
Oh yeah,
Oh
I
man,
agree.
I love it.
I'm gonna do a simple block there. I think pretty good. Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a quick sketch of the character itself, but like I said though, I'm gonna work very fast and I'm just gonna kind of get the overall proportions of the character. And this is one of those things where I do not recommend just drawing over the picture because this is another practice on strengthening your how you see proportions and how you recreate them. So I want you to do your best to not just draw over the picture, but to challenge yourself and really look at the picture and try to capture the proportions to your best of your ability. Now I don't want you going super slow either. Like right now I'm actually going pretty slow. I should be moving a tad faster, but sometimes when I'm talking and drawing, I go a little slower, admittedly.
Samuel Dobbins asks, will there be a review of Manga Studio 5 in the future like Mischief? I've had this software for months now and I love how it feels. It is a blend of Photoshop and Paint Tool Sai.
I was actually talking to Joe before the stream starts, and I think Joe will do a review on that because he's actually worked in that software before, and I think he would give a good perspective on it.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed when I was working with it. It is like it's like the baby of Photoshop and Paint Tool Sai. Sana asks, what kind of brushes do you use? They seem to be so painterly.
So I typically use a chalk brush for everything nowadays, but I feel like I go into patterns where I like find specific brushes or specific techniques, and I work with that for like 3 months. So I'd say right now I'm on like a chalk brush high, and then I also will incorporate like maybe the skin brush or the painterly brush in some areas too. All these brushes though you can download on Concept Cookie's site. So if you're curious to try them out for yourself, you can go ahead and I believe they're under the resources tab on the top menu, and then you will find them under brushes.
Sydney asks, Tim, do you ever paint in grayscale and then use overlays to get your colors in Photoshop, like glaze painting with oils?
Usually not. I think because a lot of the process I enjoy working with color and sometimes work. I'm not saying that's wrong. I actually think you can probably benefit more from working in grayscale first. I just, for me, the process becomes a little more monotone, and I really enjoy working with color. So I think I always thought artists work better when they're having fun on their pieces and they're really like into what they're doing. And I think if I worked in grayscale, I wouldn't have as much fun, which might result in pieces that might not be as strong. But that's just a theory, and I think you should try both though. I have done a lot of stuff in grayscale first and then added color after, where I definitely think the values are stronger when I start in grayscale, but I it's tough for me not to want to just jump into color and experiment with like those happy accidents that you get every now and then, but I don't get those when I'm doing grayscale as much. Can you see this pretty well? Should I zoom in? I feel like I'm really zoomed out on this.
Yeah, no, I can see it. I'm gonna plug in my headset so that way I'm gonna see if that fixes my microphone.
All right. You wait. Ask one more question so that I'll answer it while you're putting that on.
Okay. Um, well, first Evie says, by the way, I downloaded the chalk brush and now I'm kind of addicted to it. It's so much fun and so versatile.
Agreed. Yeah, it's been like my go-to brush for. I almost want to say it's been more than 3 months, so it's been like a year that I've been really kind of solely using the chalk brush for most of my paintings.
Ah. Um, Anna Mayfair asks, Do you have any tips on introducing greens and blues into skin tones? I struggle with it a lot, as well as skin reflection. I don't see it in real life. I don't see it in real life that skin reflects a whole lot. Thanks in advance, and from Russia.
Absolutely. If you can see in my skin palette reference over here, on the very bottom, sort of toward the middle, next to the girl that's very yellow, these are the skin color regions of the face. Now, I was first introduced to this from James Gurney, and I found another reference online that went a little more in depth. But pretty much when you're thinking of, and this is more specifically for you asking how do you pull greens and blues into the face. So the face is split up into different regions. So the forehead, the middle section, actually I'll do this on a new layer so that I can paint over. The forehead area, the middle section, in the lower region. Now it's one of those things where you don't always see it in some faces. You'll see it stronger than others. The one thing I will say that seems to be pretty consistent though is the mid region. You can definitely see more reds. So actually, more brown. I'll go more red. So the mid section is considered the red section. The top section is considered the yellow section. And the lower section is considered the blue region. Now, like I said, sometimes it's very subtle, sometimes it's not even apparent, but the reason for this is the areas that are more fleshy or more bulbous tend to be more red. And that's why you see it like on the nose, especially on the cheeks. Even in like if you're doing anime stuff or that's more of a style, you'll see it on like elbows or knees. Joints usually will add that, and sometimes they have even more colors like blues are sometimes thrown into the joint areas as well. But the blue region you'll see more primarily in males, and it's usually to imply like I don't want to say a clean shaven, but something to hint that I don't want, I don't want to just specifically put this for men because I see it on female paintings too, and it works. But usually it has like a dusted gray look to it, and it gives kind of a nice balance to the middle and top section with a cooler bottom section. And then the very top is yellow. And I'm not sure of the full reasoning behind that. I'd have to read the book again, but I remember it had to do something with how tight the skin is to the bone or something along those lines in the way it reflects light, and usually the area on the forehead will reflect the most light next to the nose. So those are the skin regions of the face. But as we go through on this particular face, you can see how he has a bunch of different colors and a bunch of blues and greens thrown into the face. So I'll kind of show you how I would go about doing that. Actually, maybe I'll start throwing my base colors on here. So I'm going to just color pick and throw them on. Oops.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Good.
This is kind of a similar question. It's from Kate QVQ. It says, Dear Tim, some artists say to a skin palette add blues, purples, greens, and colors like that, but I have trouble adding them. Do you have any advice how to add them and where? It's kind of the same question as before, right?
Yeah. I'll definitely show it more in the blind studies because then I'll show you like how I would incorporate that because it is a little tough to just do it blind. Where when you're looking at a study, you can see how they added it and you just try to replicate it. And then hopefully that will spawn some kind of not only inspiration but reasoning in your head of why they did that. And then you'll look, oh, okay, so they added the red here and it makes that look more bulbous or it gives more of a flesh feeling to it, where in other areas like the greens might be a color balance for the rest of the face where it might be more warm, so you might throw some blues in there. It's a really interesting look at how to add different colors into the skin palette, but it's one of those where I think it's necessary to at least experiment a lot so that when you're doing an illustration you have that in your back pocket to kind of pull out and be like, oh, I can add different colors here. I don't have to just be limited to the standard generic skin palette.
Blake says, being partially colorblind and an artist, I feel like I get some of my colors off, and I'm afraid to delve into colored portraits. I'm really trying to nail black and white studies and getting values down. What is your advice on conquering this fear?
It's a tough one where I definitely think if you have a strong sense of values, you when you add your color, if your values are so strong, like your colors could almost be abstract or it could be surrealistic and it would still come off really strong and what you created will still read very well. So I think if you are partially colorblind, if you can still kind of get the idea of what color it is, so if you know like which one is red, which one's green, well, but whatever, when you're adding it to the face, you can then rely and like take comfort in knowing that your values are strong enough to carry through the color.
I'm really interested to see if like on a spectrum, like we know when people say that they're colorblind, like what colors that they can't see, and then blend like red and green together, and see like when does it fall off, where it starts turning gray.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's got to be a number at which it's just like I can't see this color anymore.
I wonder if I'm... No, we're good. Okay, never mind.
All right, I'm gonna go to the bottom of the list.
The bottom.
Enrique asks, where can I find the top right image? This white-haired guy.
My Norman Rockwell study. Let's see if I still have it. I think I do. Yeah, it's right here in my reference. Let me grab the top layer. This was my reference. I think I just typed in Norman Rockwell face. I can't remember. It was this morning and we needed a marketing image, so I just I found one really quick and just ran with it.
He's so awesome looking.
Yeah, that one was really fun to do. I really liked pulling the warm colors into the white hair.
Actually, you know what? I
Hmm.
feel like that's what Paul Hoffner would look like when he's older.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Uh, to the bottom of the list. Um, oh, Guten Tag means good day, so you're fine.
Ah, thank you. Okay, good.
Everyone's like, the stream's an hour early.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah, we should have definitely made notice of daylight savings time. It's one of those things where when it passes, it like doesn't really phase me because the next day I forget already.
I woke up really early this morning and I looked out my window and it was like 7 o'clock and it was still dark out. I was like, whoa, this is
Right?
weird.
Even last night, like the sun stays out longer. It's really nice. I love when it switches back.
Oh yeah, me too. Dylan says, I have trouble making characters look young and or like children. Any advice on this?
Yeah, I would maybe use colors that are more like. Let me see if I have any on my reference here. Usually, the clean, smooth appearance of skin gives the appearance of youth. So a bunch of bumps or little nuances that give ridges or hints of wrinkles, you might want to avoid those. But it's one of those challenges where I challenge you to try to have those nuances and still give the appearance of youth, because that is more, I would say, true to form. But it is usually it's more smooth though, just in general. So I would say keep your skin looking smooth and only add wrinkles if it's absolutely necessary to start off, and then slowly kind of build your understanding of how to add wrinkles without aging them too much.
Tom Pace says, cool, Joe. Is that appreciation and background perspective called negative space? I just learned about that as a way to perceive shapes, etc. And yes, you are correct. It's the negative space that I was talking about. You're right. Oh, apparently the daylight savings time uh, for other places is March 29th.
Oh,
Yeah,
we will definitely have to make it known on the site that we're doing these an hour early until the end of March.
that's crazy.
I had no idea.
Andrew Pollins asks, how do you paint really, 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 really white people? The girl I love has dyed red hair and looks like she has never seen the sun.
Let's see if I have one of those in my reference too. So when you're working with a very fair-skinned person, you want to avoid dark browns or reds that are too prominent. I would say like this would be probably the best example I have on my reference, or even this one, where you still want different values showcasing the different forms and shapes of the head, but you don't want to give the impression of the actual true value of the skin to be darker. So I guess the challenge for you is working with a lot of light values and still giving the impression of light skin. It's definitely something that's doable, and I think if you practice, you can do it. Just keep in mind that you don't have to go like white to give the impression of a very white or fair-skinned person. You could even use like this color and still give the impression if like you give a bunch of contrast around it. Like if you had black hair and then like really red lips, the contrast alone will give the impression of a lighter skin. Sometimes you have to trick the eye.
Yeah, I think you have a reference on there that's like on the left side. Yeah,
These,
like those. Yeah, those two. Those are pretty awesome.
yeah, and if we even color pick from them,
Like tons of
like, look
blues.
at that. We're at like the midtones. It's not even that high on the value range, so you don't even have to go to like pure white. You can go more on like the midtones, but it's all about the way you create the composition of the face or whatever it is. If you're doing a full body, just the character in general.
EV asks, which artist do you recommend master studies?
Definitely this guy. I guess I should write them down. How did I spell this guy's name? Is
It's
it?
Repin.
I would say a lot of like the Renaissance painters are good ones. My favorite is Norman Rockwell, but he's definitely more on like a hyperrealism scale. You probably want something that's more impressionistic and something where the colors and the strokes are more visible, so you can really see how bold strokes can still give the impression of form. And those are the things that I would think you should look at.
Yeah, go check out Rembrandt and Sargent. Everyone always talks about Sargent.
You spell
Sargent's
sergeant.
good.
Oh, Sergeant.
It's SA, I think.
Oh, okay.
And then James Gurney as well.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, like you said, all like the old Renaissance ones. Whew.
hmm This guy has so many colors on his face. I'm trying to like work quickly without like rushing areas, but dang.
I love it.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Um, Tomas, I think it's Tomas. Mr. Merrick. Hi, any suggestions for softwares which is like Photoshop, similar UI that I can actually buy? I hate the CC payment. Thanks and greetings from the Czech Republic.
To be honest, off the top of my head, I actually don't know any that are as powerful as Photoshop that you could buy. I mean, there's so many other programs that you can at least try the free trial, but that's a tough question. I would almost say if you really can't afford Photoshop, there are other softwares you can get. Like GIMP is definitely one of the ones that are always talked about, and Mischief is only $50, I think, still. That's another great one. But like if you really want all the features and tools available that are in Photoshop, then you might have to just get Photoshop.
Don't they have earlier versions of it out now? Like CS2 or something like that?
Oh, I don't know. If they do, yeah, definitely look into that. Is it for free then?
Yeah, I think it's for free. I'm not sure though. Don't quote me on that.
Quote showing that.
uh, VS Demon says, I'm always tempted to use dodge and burn after painting the base color, even though I know I shouldn't. I just have a hard time to get those shadows highlight colors blended it in smoothly. Any advice on this? Thanks, Jay.
Yes, that is definitely one of those things that like we were warned about when we first learned Photoshop was do not use color burn and dodge. Where there are times where it does actually help, but usually more often than not it actually will hurt your painting because it will literally what the title says, it'll burn your image and it creates saturations that are way too contrasted. And if this is just a really bad habit that you want to break, instead of using dodge and burn, try using overlay and multiply blend modes, but don't overdo it. But it's a good introduction to kind of get you away from over contrasting your image, but still adding, I think, what you're trying to look for in the overall look of your image. So try those out and see what it gives off.
I have no idea how to, is it Horatio? Horacio? Um, Hi. Maybe this question was already done, but how did you start getting an eye for color palette picking? I mean, how do you know which colors to use for lights, shadows, and midtones? Sometimes I struggle with that, and I want to develop that skill. Thanks.
So when I started learning about color, because I've always been fascinated by the properties of color and how much strength and power it can have to the overall look of your piece, I definitely did a lot of research. And that's the first thing you have to do. Do a lot of research, and you're going to have to do a lot of practice. Because even if you totally understand theory, until you like put it into practice and into use, it's one of those things where it does come just from like muscle memory, and I don't even have to think about it too hard with certain colors, and I just know certain palettes will work better than others. And like if I'm working with yellow, I know which color to work with to complement it well. So I would say the other thing you should really look at is how uh, I don't want to go too much into like a color tutorial, but the best thing that you can do, and I'll just do a quick one right here. So let's say we were working with this purple. Your initial reaction to what you should do to go from light to dark on this color would be to pull a black and a white and then blend lighter and blend darker. And this is like the one thing that I always try to avoiding because this isn't this is a very linear one track color spectrum that you're using. So this is one example, but I want you guys to try doing this. Without even touching saturation that much, I'm going to go lighter in value, but I'm going to bend my light toward yellow. Actually, maybe I'll make the value a little lighter just to more of a contrast there. And then I'll grab that same purple, and then for when I go darker, I'm going to go slightly darker, I'm going to go a little less saturated. I'm going to bend it toward my blue. So now, when I blend up and blend down, we not only have a value shift going on, but we also have a hue shifting in this spectrum here. And what that means is I'm not only affecting the value, so the lightness of the color, but I'm also affecting the hue, which is the rainbow slider bar. Now, if we want, we could even start going to like affecting saturation. If I wanted to, I'll even make it more saturated.
Oh, people are commenting on the colorblind thing.
Color blend thing?
The apparently color deficient works is that you don't see colors in gray, that red and green deficient, and those two colors, when those two colors mix, they it's hard to differentiate them. I didn't know that. I have a cousin who's colorblind, and he just sees those colors in gray.
Hmm.
Huh.
Learn
That's so
something
neat.
new. But I know, like, in the back of my mind, what colors work well next to each other, and sometimes it's just due to pure contrast. So I know, like, against a dark purple, a lighter color, and sometimes like a blue, since it is similar in the hue, but it creates a nice pop next to it. So I know like those two colors will play well next to each other. Just like how I know with purple, adding any kind of warmth to it, so like an orange or a yellow that might be a little more saturated, tends to work really well because it gives a nice complement and directs the eye to a certain position. So like this is just something that you'll learn and pick up through practice. I don't think there's any like secret that like the art masters aren't telling you. It is just from practice and like figuring out, okay, like the other thing I would say is I know that if I was working with this blue, putting like this color next to it probably won't work that well. Let's say if I wanted to work with a little desaturated, slightly darker value, actually even I don't like that as much either, even go more, and it's a lot of experimenting, where I like this better because then I'm getting contrast in not only the value but the saturation as well, because the blue is more saturated, so it's giving more of an interest to the saturated part of the blue. I guess that's my quick little tidbit on color without going too in depth. That's actually one of the tutorials that I will be recording over the next few months, and it'll be a whole series on just color. And I'm really excited about this. I know me and Joe have been talking about this since we did it at the end of a workshop. I think it was a month ago. And it's something that I know people, or that you guys just want to learn. You want to learn specifically more about color. And I'm going to give you my all. I'm going to give you everything that I've learned and taught myself and found through other teachers on the internet. And hopefully with that information, it'll not only strengthen your understanding, but maybe inspire you to go out and experiment in color.
People are asking about uh, brushes, and one of them is what brush is good for blending in Photoshop? Um, what kind of brush are you using?
Did I just tackle all these at once?
Yeah, let me. Which Photoshop tool are you using to blend between colors? And when you are painting, do you use transparency?
All right, so let me answer as many of these as I can.
All
I am
right.
using the chalk brush right now, which is one of the standard basic ones in the Concept Cookie brush pack, which you can download for free on the site. I use that for everything. So I don't use a special blend brush. I'm literally just using the chalk brush to blend between colors. The other thing, though, is you can use any brush to blend. It's depending on how time efficient you want to be. Or like if you want to blend with a soft edge brush, let me do a quick example. Blending this blue into this dark blue with a hard edge, make it look like a sphere, will take a little longer than, let's say, let me first do a little blending here. And if we do the complete opposite with the soft edge brush, oops, let me first make my circle. We can see how it happens almost instantly. So usually brushes that have a softer edge or a textured edge are better for blending than hard edge brushes, but sometimes that hard edge appearance or the brush strokes that are left behind by hard brushes tend to be more interesting than soft, where some images look too blurry. And that's something that you just be aware of while you're working. It's not like a necessary rule where if you use a soft edge brush, everything's going to look blurry. But it's one of those things where I've noticed it more often than not, so just be a little careful with that. Okay, I really want to do this guy's eyes right now. He has I want to say Robin Williams eyes.
Yeah, he really does.
Was that all the questions I had? Oh, the opacity. I have my opacity set at 99. It should be at 100. at 100% at all time. And this is something that I don't think is the norm. I think people usually keep it at like a 50 or something. But I'm so psycho about my brushstrokes and being in full control that I keep it at 100. So I know if I push all the way down on my tablet, I'm going to get the opacity of that color. But this is another thing where just practice using different opacities, and you might find you like a specific percentage over another.
X0O bloody 0OX says, should you start drawing directly with color or use gray, black, and white? Gene from Sweden.
Gray, black, and white is grayscale. I kind of what I was talking about earlier in the stream. I tend to work strictly in color right away. I might do a quick sketch like I did on this guy first, and then go straight into color. But the reason people go into grayscale first is so that they can see the true values of the values they're placing down. Where with color, it's a little tougher. And to be completely honest, sometimes it's even tough for me to tell what value it's at, where it's almost like you have to guess. Where like I can kind of tell that most of this is more toward the middle. But let's do a test right now. I'm going to choose create a new layer, turn my saturation all the way down. So yeah, I was right. They're mostly towards the mid-range, and I'm going to grab one of them. So yeah, and then if we look at the ones that are lighter, so yeah, these are all about in the mid-range, and then these should be the much darker. Yeah. So then that contrast is really nice. So if I started this in grayscale, I could probably see a lot easier. Oh wow, like that highlight on that cheek is really prominent, and I can see different highlights. Where for this, it actually might have been good if I started in grayscale because I could really see the true values of it. Where there are so many colors in this piece, where it's like a true challenge to see the underlying values. So you can see how the cheeks definitely need to be upped. Let's see, the mustache needs to be a tad darker. I need to work on those eyes.
I absolutely love the contrast that he does on the skeletal structure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
If you
man.
guys don't know what we're talking about, me and Joe were talking about how a lot of these artists where they'll really make the shines on like where the bones are closer to the skin really prominent and like shine really well. And that's something that's really, really neat looking at master studies. Because I feel like a lot of them do that. Like even Norman Rockwell, even though he's more on hyperrealism, he still pushes these highlights on these different areas.
And always on the tip of the nose where you just like put like one mark and you're like, boop.
Done. Yeah, I don't really like the one I did on this nose.
Jonathan Lopez asks, hello, Tim. What art school did you go to? I've been searching for one, but I was hoping you could give me a few to check out. Thanks.
I went to the Illinois Institute of Art in Schaumburg, and it was for game art and design. So my background's actually in 3D modeling. And this is another question where I feel like we get asked every week, but for you, I would say don't 100% think that art school might be the right choice for you, because you might be surprised on what you'll actually be able to teach yourself over what you might be taught at a school. And I'm not trying to like harp on art schools, but I definitely taught myself everything about Photoshop on my own because I didn't want to be a 3D modeler. I wanted to be a 2D digital artist. And I was able to look at resources online and teach myself everything because of how much knowledge, and it's usually free too. A lot of it I feel like I learned from YouTube and just watching those videos and really studying how different artists laid down their work. And like even just one video, I think the one that stands out in my mind because it was one of the first ones I watched was on starting with a base color that was neutral and then work up your values. And that for me was like life changing. And I think that's why I usually start with a mid-tone background to this day. And it's what stuff like that where you'll pick up little tidbits and techniques, and the more that you collect over time, you'll just have this like knowledge base in the back of your head on how to work in digital art, and you'll always have that where you don't need a school to teach you that. You can learn all of it online, especially now that I work at CG Cookie, and that's kind of what I do. I do tutorials for people, And I feel like if you want to learn digital art, the resources are out there for you. But if you really want to go for more of like the networking or for getting the college experience, because I completely understand that too. When I was 19 and 20, like I wanted to have fun, I wanted to meet new people, I wanted experiences that I would remember the rest of my life. And I think that's why I don't regret going to college, even though I felt like I didn't specifically learn what I wanted to for my career. So I wouldn't recommend AI as much as like what is the Vancouver school or the one that's in Florida, Full Sail. I feel like there's a lot of schools out there that you should research on, especially if you are able to move there. I would say there's what's the one, the Fang Zoo one? I think that one's in Canada.
Is it in Canada? Or I thought it was, yeah, it's somewhere. It's in a different country.
But that one, like the portfolios that come out of that school are like insane. I would definitely recommend looking into that one at least. And I guess just kind of do your research. If you want to go somewhere a little more local, really look at. I think the best thing to look at is graduates and alumni that have come out of that school and really look at their work and from like when they first entered to when they left. And some of that might be self-taught, but a lot of it might speak volumes to the teaching of that school and the strength of that school in general.
This name is in Russian, and I have no idea.
Let me look at it.
I want to see if I want to see, I want to
Yeah,
see if
no idea.
Google can translate. Yeah. Anyway, I'll ask the question while I do this. Um, I'm always so excited when I manage to get to your broadcast. It always makes me really happy when my motivation's at zero. You guys cheered me up, and it reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing. I just love to draw and enjoy the process. Thank you so much for this.
Oh, that was really nice. Thank you.
Google's,
Selfishly, I just enjoy doing these on my own too.
I know,
So it's a
right?
two-way street. Not only are you getting something from it, I feel like I get something from it too. I'm sure Joe does.
Oh no, oh man, I love these.
Joe hates them.
Oh yeah, no, these are.
These
Ooh.
are horrible for him.
Apparently the name is Yazia.
Well, thank you.
That's probably wrong though, because that's Google.
Okay, I'm gonna try to only spend a couple, maybe like 5, 10 more minutes on this because I really want to do a blind one because I feel like this kind of a study is so crazy where I probably should have picked a slightly, I don't want to say image, but maybe one that isn't as complex with their color craziness that's going on here. Where I feel like I need to spend another half hour minimum just to really challenge myself with getting these colors nailed down. But I think it's good to see, like, look at all the crazy colors I've been adding. Like, I can't even tell you how many colors are in these. I have, like, I know I've pulled blue at one point, purple, pink, yellow, green, moldy green, throw up color green. Like, there's been a whole bunch of colors that are outside of the typical skin spectrum.
Solid Snake asks, what brush would you use for paint tool Psi?
Joe, answer that one.
Um, I use the brush, but I use the middle flat brush, and I have that turned all the way up to 100. My blending is fairly neutral on there, but I mean the default brushes in Paint Tool Psi are pretty darn good, um, for especially for just blending. Uh, but yeah, if you're looking for like a square brush, the middle flat brush is pretty solid. Uh, how are you blending the two colors? Do you use the smudge tool? Thanks in advance.
No, so I'm literally using the chalk brush for everything. I'm not using any different tools or filters. Pretty much Okay. Without once again going too much into it, which maybe I don't mind because these are live streams and the point of these are to teach. One of the techniques I explained in my workshop is I work with a repetitious process while I'm working, and you'll be able to find out what your own pattern is while you're working. But I call mine ESP. ESB, sorry. And that means eyedropper, size, blend. So anytime I'm working in anything, so let's say I wanted to, let's see, where do I want to blend next? Blend the bottom part of this chin. I'll eyedropper a color, which is my E, so I'm pulling up a darker blue here. I'm sizing it, so I'm picking a size that makes sense for what I'm about to lay down. And then B is my blend. So I do that like nonstop, I want to say like 30 times a minute, where you'll see my eyedropper, my size, and me just blending really, really fast. And that's because that's the pattern that I've picked up that I practice on now. So I think the more that you work in it, in any digital software, you'll find sort of a process that is very repetitious, but it allows you to work fast. And that's one of the goals of working in a digital program, is being efficient while you work. And that's my pattern, and it might work for you. If not, that's okay. You'll find your own. It's one of those where I developed it over like the first year of doing digital art, so I definitely don't think it happened overnight by any means. I think it happened as you kind of figure out what kind of drawing style you do, the way you personally like to blend colors together, and the way you like to work, where this might actually be horrible for you and you like to do a whole other process, but it's good to practice. And that's why my biggest advice for any new digital artist is to draw every day. Doesn't matter what it is. I mean, do your best to actually make it a study rather than just recycling your own skill level, but push yourself to draw every day, because then just through muscle memory alone, you're faster. So that's my tip on just becoming a more efficient artist. But if you want to become a better artist, you definitely have to pull in more analytical skills and really look at what you're drawing and analyze. And this once again goes back to my workshop on, I really believe you have to really analyze, observe, interpret, and execute everything you draw. So even as I'm looking at this old man drawing here, I'm really observing the different colors that he laid out there. I'm analyzing how these colors work well together and how they tell the story of the different values of his face. And I'm interpreting, okay, well, how am I going to do this on my own? Well, I'm going to use a chalk brush because I think it's a great one for blending. And then through the whole process, you've been watching me interpret and then execute it. That's that whole process, and you do it every time you do a new piece. That's how I do my paintings and how I blend.
Sydney Kruger says, Tim, your character turnaround tutorial saved my life a couple months ago. I'm so thankful for Concept Cookie.
Awesome, thank you. I'm more excited for you guys to see what we've been working on. Joe and I have been in talks with Wes, who is the owner of CG Cookie, and there's a lot of big things going to happen in the next 3 months, and a lot of it is going to come down to me kind of being like locked in a cave, just like pumping out tutorials and really doing my best to do some tutorials that I've almost avoided over the years because of how advanced they are. But I really think I'm at a point where I'm ready to share with you guys at least the knowledge I've acquired over the years and give you some kind of perspective. Like color is one of the big ones that have been asked for forever, and I have never done a full-blown color tutorial before, and that one's finally in the works. So I'm glad that you say that, but I'm actually more glad for you to check out what's coming in the next few months.
Get hyped.
Get hyped. And it's just been double crazy because actually Joe is moving into my house on Saturday. Whoop. And it's been crazy with that. And then we've been ripping out the indoor hot tub that's in my back room right now, and that's been chaotic. And then I have my first sketchbook that I published a month ago, and I've been working back and forth with the print house for the past week and a half, and finally it's getting sent off to print. And it's one of those things where, and I tell Joe this, and I think this is one of the best things you need to hear, is I really feel like I'm one of those people that I don't have a lot of time. But I would never tell someone I don't have time to do something. Because when I hear that, I just immediately think they don't manage their time well. because if I really wanted to get something done, I would make time for it because we all have the same amount of time in this world. And the people that usually blame not having enough time to do something are the ones that just don't manage their time well. So don't be one of those people. Really step outside of yourself and look at, well, could I spend more time on this? Like, could I, when I get home, rather than playing an hour of a video game, should I be working on a drawing? Like, you almost have to be critical on yourself and your work and how much time and effort you do put into it. Because if you are serious about becoming a digital artist, then you should take it seriously as well. Man, I
Ooh.
love doing these master's studies. I could do like 5 of these for the entire day and not get bored.
Right? Uh, uh, Fengzu School is in Singapore, apparently.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Singapore. I'll try to remember that.
Uh, Patricio?
Patricio?
Patricio? I am painting a ginger skin color and I'm having problems. Did you ever do a skin color like that?
Uh, Gingers actually have really, really awesome skin because then you can also work with freckles. And I'm not trying to sound stereotypical, but typically, people that have red hair and fair skin, they have freckles. And I love working with fair skin against freckles. So I guess the best example, I even have one in my reference sheet over here. Let me grab a color and circle it right here. So what's really fun is when you're working with that skin color, I guess you have to be a little careful because if you make the oranges and the hair color too light, it might blend and blur into the skin too much. But if you do it right, it has that really beautiful effect where the skin and the hair almost complement each other. And then any area that is like a different color, like the eye on this girl is popping like crazy, especially since they're like a lighter color, which ginger skin people usually have light colored eyes or colored either blue or green.
Can you
But then
zoom
the
in a bit?
shirt, what?
Can you zoom in?
Oh yeah. Let me like look how gorgeous that is. Look at the yellow and the warmths pushed off against the colors of the skin. And let me really quick, I'm gonna pull the colors in the skin here because they are so faint that it's really quite handled well. Where there are like I know that you probably can't see it from my screen. Actually, I'll pull from this. There are very faint purple, blues, and greens that are mixed into this face color, and it is handled so well but so subtly that it's quite amazing. So if you're doing a fair skinned person, don't rely on like overly light values to give you the impression, and kind of like what we talked about earlier, but really give it a fair, I would say, overall value, and then let your highlights do all the speaking for you, or your surrounding colors. Like in this case, having darker values in the background really make the skin appear lighter just by contrast alone.
Uh, any ideas why a lot of 2D artists come from an animation background?
Uh, well, to be honest, I technically come from a 3D background, so it doesn't surprise me that much. And what's really cool is what I feel like I'm able to pull of what I learned in 3D into my 2D work. So that's another reason why I don't regret going to college because I learned so much about 3D space and perspective just without even really having to practice it in 2D because I learned a lot of it in 3D. Where even like imagining how this guy would look from a side view, I probably would be able to give a pretty close representation of what it might look like because I can imagine this guy in a 3D space. And having that knowledge is really neat. So I think it doesn't surprise me because a lot of 3D artists, when if they decide, 3D is cool and all, but I think I'm more passionate about 2D, I think a lot of them just make the jump over. And so that's why that doesn't surprise me one bit to hear that.
That and with 2D animation artists, I know that they do a really good. Oh my gosh, the dog, it's attacking. Um, a lot of 2D artists, what they do is they capture gestures so well that it it super helps when doing anatomy and doing eventually 2D paintings, you know? And
Hmm.
I think that's super important to be able to understand how gesture works and how motion and things like that, like flow, work. So it makes everything really dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. Liquefy this guy's head a little smaller on the right there.
Uh, Chris Pearson asks, "What do you mean by master studies? Do you mean taking a class somewhere, or just setting a task to do and finding info on how to do it?"
Oh, I guess, yeah, I should have made that more clear. When I think of master study, I think of grabbing a painting or I don't want to say an illustration. I would say a painting that was done long ago. So from an artist that is dead. And looking at the way they did their work, specifically like this one is Repin, right? Or Repin.
Yeah,
And I'm looking at the way he added his values and not only his values, but really how he knew what colors to add to give the values of the face, but still give an interesting color palette. Because, and I was talking to Joe about this too, where I feel a lot of modern digital artists don't have, or just artists in general, don't have that extensive knowledge and concentration and patience that a lot of these older artists did because they really spent like hours on paintings and they had to mix their own colors and like they did so many more studies that is not required as much today, which I think loses some of the quality and the understanding of color theory of just literally everything. So I think even though we've come a long way with technology and understanding and like easy access to color, like especially in a digital format, you can do whatever color you want. I feel like we lost a lot of that understanding and knowledge of how to practice and really look and observe at value and form and be able to apply that to our own works. So when I say master study, I'm really talking about looking at the artists that spent hours really learning and understanding their craft and really not only studying their work, but trying to do a recreation of their work. And while you're doing it, you're not just recreating it, you're trying to study it as you go. And you're trying to pick up knowledge that these artists had that you're trying to be able to absorb for yourself that you'll be able to work in your own stuff. Like, Joe, what do you think when you hear master study?
um, I think of master level, right? Someone who is a master level artist, and you're studying how they work, not only through color and value, but also, I mean, you're talking composition. You're also talking about just uh, being like their ability to replicate from real life as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's so many things that a master can do, which is why they are a master, that you're striving to hit for. And I mean, sure, they can, like a master can be wrong at times, like they can do something that's wrong, but you need to see, okay, well, why is this wrong? Or why is this right? Why do these colors work so well together? And I think, uh, especially when I was learning how to do art, I wasn't asking myself those questions. I wasn't. I was just like, just do this, da da da, like just follow the directions. And I feel like we get into trap. We like entrap ourselves a lot of the time when we do that. We're just like, just go, just copy this image, but we never sit and ask ourselves why. And I think it's super important that we need to start that as an artist. You need to do that. You need to ask why.
Yep, totally agree. Okay, this stream might go a little longer. Joe, do you have anything on your schedule?
No, no.
Perfect. Okay, because I'm just going to edge this off and then I'm going to go into blind studies. Not even, I shouldn't call them blind studies, just going at it blind.
Uh, Kate QVQ asks, will you guys be doing a stream on making portfolios anytime soon?
You know what's funny is I just gave a lecture to a classroom on not only building a portfolio, but what I look for in a portfolio and how I think it was like a portfolio critique, but it kind of ended up being a portfolio session on what I look for in portfolios, what I think are strengths and weaknesses. I definitely think we could do one sooner than later, even, where we would probably set it up though, where we'd have a few of you guys send over your current portfolios, and then we would take like a day to do a full review, and then on the live stream day, we would give you kind of what we talked about and our full opinion on them. But if we did that, I would ask you guys to take it with a grain of salt, because the artists that seem to really excel faster than others are the ones that are able to handle critique. Where sometimes that's why I think I've been avoiding doing critiques on live streams, because I like to kind of get a feel for the artist and how well I think they will take critique and kind of cater my critique to that artist specifically. But if you want me to go at it more blind, just know, and this is what I told the kids at the portfolio review, is sometimes what I say comes across very critical and blunt, but I want you guys to know it's coming from a place of caring and constructive, where I'm not trying to just tear you down just to make myself look better. Like, no, I don't get pleasure out of that. I'm looking to make you a better artist and make your portfolio the best that I believe it can be. And sometimes it comes with the cost of either removing some of your work, improving some of it, getting feedback that might be more not so sugar coated. And I think you need to hear that, because the best teachers I've had in my life were the ones that pushed me past what I thought I was capable of. And that's why, if any of you have heard me rant about Whiplash lately, it's because that movie really signifies a teacher that goes way too extreme, but that the theory of you need to be pushing your students past what they believe they are capable of is so important for growth that I definitely think we could do a portfolio review one of these times. But just know I'll try to get a feel of who the artist is first, so I'm not like just breaking them down and make them feel terrible, because that's not the point of a portfolio review.
Next question is from Blake. It says, so for doing master studies, I see you're color picking. I'm always told to never color pick because that's a bad habit and that you need to practice being able to replicate those colors yourself. Your thoughts?
I agree to some extent. I think for doing a pure master study like this, when I'm pulling these colors, usually I create palettes of the colors I'm picking. I'm not doing it now just because of time, but usually I would pull the color and then put it to the side. And when I'm done, I would look at my palette and I might pull it into my swatches kit so that I'm able to use it for future use. But I don't think it's terrible to color pick. I actually recommend it for almost in most cases, because sometimes if you go at it with your own knowledge, you might be missing out on, like I might have missed out if I didn't color pick, I might have missed out on some of the yellows and greens that are very prominent in the face. If I win it on my own accord, I might have missed that. Down to your intention, where my intention was to fully recreate this to the best of my ability, and I'm trying to show you guys how diverse skin can be. So for a study like this, I don't consider it cheating.
Yeah, I think
I do think you should strengthen your knowledge of color, and I think this is one way of going about it.
Yeah, I think a big reason why a lot of people say not to color pick is due to pixelation of low-res images.
Oh yes.
And so like they'll color pick and they'll pick the wrong pixel and it'll look weird. So if you're picking from an image and you're laying down values, make sure that you lay it down in that palette to make sure that's the color that you want to use. Don't just sit there and blindly color pick, you know. Make sure you're studying it, that you're understanding the value and the saturation, you know, of the color that you're picking.
No, I'm trying to think. When you go to your eyedropper tool, let me see here. Where's my eyedropper? Shoot, I gotta figure out. I think the eyedropper is down here.
Your eyedropper is below your crop tool.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So when you choose your eyedropper, you can either do point sample or you can choose it by an average. So if you're working with a really pixelated image, you can still get a median color, if I think that's what they call it, where change your point sample to like an 11 by 11, and you'll see how pretty much it'll gather a collection of colors within like an 11 by 11 pixel radius, and it'll choose a median between them. So sometimes that might be really helpful if you feel like you're working from a pixelated image and you don't feel like the colors are matching up. Okay, so I'm gonna move on because I've already spent too much time on the study because I think I enjoy doing studies too much. I think mine looks a little more like Abraham Lincoln than Robin Williams, but I'm gonna move on. Maybe I'll touch up on it later. So let's see here. I'm gonna hide some of this.
Tom Pace says, I saw an awesome painting documentary that might be an ultimate master study called Tim's Vermeer. It should be on Netflix.
Tim's Vermeer?
Yeah.
If it's on Netflix, I might watch it later.
We have a question.
I'll just work on a new canvas. Oops, no,
Question
not that one.
about time management.
Yes, let me hear it.
Do you have any tips on how to manage time?
Yes. One, make your work a priority. So sometimes you'll have to sacrifice things, and this might not sound the most pleasant, but even like sometimes time with friends. I would say while I was in college, I didn't really hang out with people during the week, like at all. It was maybe like during school, like getting lunch together, but for the most part, we were doing work every day when we would get home from school. And on the weekends, I would go out and party, but during the week, I would almost dedicate myself to just drawing, like put on a movie or four in the background and just draw for the entire night. So I would say make practicing digital art a priority. And if you have a job, because while I was in school, I had I had three jobs at different times, but I would always work around them. So I would go to school from like 10 to 4, and I would work from like 10 to 9, or sometimes, or not 10 to 9, like I would say 5 to 9, 9:30 usually, and then I would get home around 10. So rather than just going to sleep, I would force myself to stay up for like another 3 hours and just draw. And yeah, some days I was really tired, but I knew if I didn't do it, it would never get done. You can be your own worst enemy or your greatest supporter. So I think you got to put yourself more on the supporter side and push for things that um, help you rather than hurt you, if that makes sense. So like maybe you shouldn't be spending 10 hours on an MMO over the weekend because those 10 hours you could put it to use in drawing and maybe doing a study and maybe doing a personal piece or a fan art, whatever it might be. As long as you're drawing, that's the best thing you can do. All right, I'm going to try to work fast here.
What are your thoughts on using the mixer brush in Photoshop? Are there any benefits/drawbacks?
To be completely honest, I just kind of figured it out last night. I even called Joe. I was like, "Did you know Photoshop had this?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course." So I think I need to play around with it a bit more to really get a full grasp on it. I don't think it's nearly as strong as the one in Corel Painter that I was using, but I definitely think there's possibilities there that I want to try out. And I'm actually pretty excited to see what it's capable of.
Are you color picking from your Sora picture?
For the pink, yes. Mainly from the old guy, though.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm
Aaron
going to
Nash.
show,
Oh,
this is
there.
probably what people are more interested in on like concept art skin colors. Well, I think it's good to think more illustrative. Let's go a little quicker to show how to do skin color more on a quick scale.
Aaron Nash says, Hi Tim, when adding textures, do you add them at the end once you have the skin down, or do you add them as you go? Examples would be like freckles and scars, spots, beauties, etc.
At the very end. Let me see, do I have any examples I could pull up? I have freckles on red. Yes, I do. Okay. So if we zoom in on, so this is the full composition, so it's a larger composition, so I'm not zooming in too much on the skin, but I still want to take the time to at least add a few freckles. So like right here, oops, grab a different brush. Like there, and there. So when I'm doing the final like touches to give the appearance of texture, so like you can see it on the head pretty clear, is I'll usually make my skin brush rather large and let the texture be more apparent, where if you push harder with the skin brush, it'll create more of a solid stroke. But if you leave it really light, you can see how it leaves that irregularity to it. So that's usually how I get the end result of a textured skin, but it depends on how you place it. So I'd be a little careful. But then with freckles, the worst thing that you could do is just grab like a circle brush and then make a dot. Like avoid that at all costs. You want to make it look like it actually sits on top of the skin and it works on the level of being either a freckle or a mole or a beauty mark, whatever it might be. So in this case, I'm going to zoom in. I wanted to add a freckle on her cheek. I'm thinking about her cheek in a 3D space, so I'm going to make it a bit longer. I'm going to blend it in. I'm not just going to make like a solid dot. I'm going to blend it in softly. Because usually freckles aren't like midnight black, like it's not super dark. Usually they're lighter, and especially if it's like a freckle or a sunspot, usually they're a tad lighter, and those give the better appearance of freckles. And then when you zoom out, if it's too strong, what I would do is I would grab a skin color nearby and then lighten it up. And actually, this is probably a good example of irregular skin colors. So if I even pull a few from her face really quick, like you would not look at this color palette and immediately think, oh, that's skin. Like that's one of the fun parts of working with skin colors is it's not just one singular color that defines skin. Oh, it's really weird now going back to this. I think maybe I'll work on the guy first.
Andrew says, if you want to do a portfolio review, count me in. I'll gladly send mine your way if you want it.
Yeah. I think me and Joe will talk about how we're going to set this up because then, yeah, we'll take like 3 or 4 probably and just work on that.
I'd highly recommend having at least 8 solid pieces anywhere. Like, not just be like, this is my portfolio, and then send us like 3.
Mm-hmm. I guess general rule, if you're going to be one of these people thinking about doing the portfolio reviews, that's true. I don't want like 3 pieces, but I also don't want like 50. Where put your best foot forward and maybe like a solid 10 to 20 is a good amount for a portfolio. Now, one of the things I talked about with the students was I always judge a portfolio by the weakest piece, or what I believe and consider to be the weakest piece in the portfolio. Because that shows me that you think that this level of quality matches the rest, where that scares me because then I think of, well, does this person not really understand color because this piece really demonstrates a lack of knowledge? So when you're putting together your portfolio, if there's a piece that you're on the edge with where you're like, you know, this isn't really my greatest, but I only have 9 pieces and I want to make it a full 10, trust me, leave it out. It's not worth the person looking at it to think that you don't have a solid understanding of something just because you wanted to make it a little larger of a portfolio.
Sana asks, do you have any recommendations on how to fight art block?
Yeah, I think this is something that we talk about a lot where you're going to have bad days. Like there's going to be days where your art isn't as awesome as it can be. And I think those days you just have to accept and be like, you know, today's not my day, but I'm going to put in my day's worth of practice and then just know that this isn't permanent. Like this is a temporary thing. Now, I don't know about you, Joe, but I feel like my art blocks usually last a day. And usually by the next day, I'm back in the boat and I'm like, I'm ready to go. But for some people, we've definitely heard it lasts for like a long time and it's like irritatingly annoying and they don't know how to get out of it. But usually it's because they don't practice every day, or at least that's what I tend to see. And I think that they just know in the back of their head or they convince themselves they're not good anymore. Or like they're always going to be on a bad note. But you got to get that thinking out of there because relying on that mental note, that stigma, will just entice you not to do work because then you already labeled yourself as inefficient at the time, and you never want to do that. You never want to put yourself down like that. It kind of goes back to the whole idea of you can either be your biggest supporter or your biggest enemy. So, Joel, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I would. Well, like I'm gonna agree with you on most of those points. Like, I would say the biggest thing is like, because there are times when I will just like hammer out piece after piece after piece, and then afterwards I'm like, okay, I need to take a bit to digest it, and I look at it kind of like a like when you're making a fire, and it kind of goes in hand with like passion, right? So if you were to make a fire, you don't just throw a giant log on the fire and expect the fire to do anything, right? It's kind of like you're putting like these little tiny sticks and twigs on it, uh, and then it makes the fire, right? And then it grows bigger when you start putting uh, more oxygen and then even more twigs and stuff, right? So the twigs and the oxygen are your essentially like your studying, right?
I
Your
really
knowledge
like
of
this
art.
analogy.
What?
I really like this analogy.
Yeah, and then but then like if I were to walk up and then just put a giant log on the fire, which is a ton of work, right? So it's just like tons and tons and tons and tons. My fire is going to go out, and my passion is just going to dive bomb, and then I'm going to be burnt out, right? Fire goes kaput, and then you don't want to work anymore, and you're like, oh well, I just did all this really hard work, and but at the same time, if you don't have a continuous burn going, then man, like that's when you stop growing as much.
I feel like it's hard to get that flame going again then.
Definitely. People are asking about darker skin tones. So uh, Riku Silver says, "Hi Tim, I missed part of the stream, so I'm not sure if you've already gone over this already. But how do you give the appearance of a partial skin tan from going outside, like a farmer's tan or one you got from the beach?"
Oh, yeah, these are kind of fun. I would probably make a multiply layer, and then let's say on the old man. Actually, I'll do it really quick because it's kind of a fun question. So what I would probably do is I would grab a multiply layer, burn him up, and like imagine if he was wearing sunglasses. Um, and then I would definitely tone down the opacity on this. Or actually, wait, I can just mask it out like that, and then I would probably just turn down the layer's opacity a little bit, like maybe like there. So that's probably how I do my tan lines. Oops, where's my drawing? There we go.
And then Vincent Tang asked, "How do you paint dark skin?"
So like brown or black skin.
Yeah, like an ebony.
Uh, oops, wait, hold on. Oh shoot, I pressed a button and now I'm only working on the wrong channel. Or no, I'm not. What the heck? That was weird. Okay. To create darker skin, I would definitely pull for more darker browns, but then don't just rely on like dark brown and like that's it. So I would probably look at that brown and then I would probably mix in like I always see really cool purples being incorporated with darker skin. And that usually represents like a highlight color and bring more of like those rich chocolate brown colors. Why am I working at like oh no, I don't know. My tablet seems to be giving out on me. No.
No, go up top on your tool set, or like on your brush. Go all the way over to that one.
Oh,
That change it?
yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Oof. Times when you think your whole life is turned upside down. So this is probably more of the color palette I would work with, but then don't just look at like don't be afraid to pull in some reds and work as that in some colors and then pull in some yellows. Like I don't think when you're working with skin tones that means that you have to like almost push out certain colors because they don't necessarily are associated with that skin hue, where I think working with as many colors in different hues that it still complements each other, if it works, why would you take it away? So this is one of those examples where I think it could work really well, so I would experiment with it.
Micah asks, "Hey Tim, when I'm painting a leather jacket, what color should I use?"
A little off topic, but browns would definitely be a big one. And really look at the creases and the wrinkles and how the highlights are actually not like that strong. It's more of a mild material to work with. Why do I keep? Oh, I'm on the mask. That's why. And I think when you're working with leather, you want to focus more with neutral browns first, and then look at the way it creases, and then create that to the best of your ability, and work from there.
Dylan Ever says, "When I finish a piece, I think it looks really good, but I always come back to it later and it doesn't look half as good as before. Is this normal? Will this change at some point?"
Wait, when I finish it looks really good. No, that means you're growing as an artist. That's a good thing. That's probably the best thing you can see if you're looking back at like older work and you're like, wow, I feel like I've come a long way since then. It'd
Yeah,
actually be a
that's
problem if you didn't look back at your older work and you don't think you've grown, because then you might have plateaued.
yeah, it's like your artist's eye is growing.
Hmm. Yeah, that goes back to developing your visual eye, and you start to recognize patterns and things that work, things that don't work, and tightness of areas and sloppiness. Like everything starts to become more clear once your visual eye starts to become strengthened.
Yeah, another good analogy for that I would say is like any type of muscle that you have.
Yeah.
You know? All my friends are looking at my work and saying, "Wow," and I know it's not at all, and it upsets me. Sometimes I wish that when people would criticize my work, they'd be truthful. This is one of the reasons why you should go to art school. Teachers will criticize you a lot.
Well, I totally agree with the first part. The second part, though, I think sometimes the teachers in my school catered and coddled students because if the if the student wanted to leave, that teacher would be in a lot of trouble. So I think I was coddled at different points, and I hate that. And now looking back, that is like the worst thing that you could do is, I mean, man, I feel like I'm referencing Whiplash a lot, but the worst thing you can say is that looks good or that's good enough, because that is so harmful to your growth and like wanting to become a better artist, where you feel like, oh, okay, well, I can settle on this skill level and it's good enough. Like I don't have to be better than this. I totally agree that the worst critique is one that doesn't really help at all. It's not constructive. It doesn't push you further as an artist. And I will say though, like artists are sensitive, and you gotta be careful with what you say and how you say it, because you don't also want to like ruin a friendship because you're trying to help them grow as an artist. I think it's the best thing you can do as a friend, but you want to be a little careful and maybe cater your words. I call it fluffing it up, and maybe not be as harsh or direct, and really look at it in a way that is more sensitive but still constructive. And the first part of what you're saying is being told you're good a lot. I understand where you're coming from, because in high school, I felt like I was the best artist and I was on such a high. It's like the worst thing to feel, where you're just like, yeah, I'm the best artist here, because you are just a big fish in a small pond. And then when you're thrown into the ocean, it's like a rude wake up call where you're like, oh my God, like I'm not even close to being the best. I'm actually probably on the spectrum of being one of the worst. And it's one of those good wake up calls, because then if you're able to see and recognize that, well, one, you need to see that, because if you're not self aware and you're not really looking at it, then that's a problem to start with. But you need to then look at, okay, how can I become a better artist? Like, what steps do I need to take to grow? And always look at your as an artist that is willing to learn and accept critique and get better. Because once you're at the point where you feel like you've hit the top of your potential, you will stop growing almost immediately. So don't be one of those artists.
Bingo.
Sorry, that was kind of a rant, but
No, it was truthful rant though. Aaron Nash says, when drawing line art, do you work in black or choose a deep brown or another color? I've always started sketches in brown to help with blending shadows, but find my painting gets muddy if overworked.
it's funny that you ask that because lately I've been working in color to do my outlines, but I don't think there's a preference either way. I think it's more of a personal preference. And I think with color outlines, it can be kind of fun because then you can change the hue and saturation really quick. If you want to like try different color outlines, but visually just to see it, I tend to work with either like a dark red or a dark brown, I want to say.
There's a lot of people starting to file in now, because
I
they
feel like we're
usually,
going to go for at least another 20 minutes. Is that cool by you, Joe?
yeah, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I want to see if more people will join in around,
Oh, that's right, because of daylight savings thing.
yeah, and usually more people hop in.
I feel bad. Because if we're the only country that does that, that's kind of a problem because most of our viewers are from outside of the States. So once again, I apologize for that.
This question's been kind of floating around. It's from a little bit ago. It says, I had a question a while back. Is it bad to draw with your wrists? Should we always use our shoulders, or does it depend on the size of the canvas?
You know, this is a question I get a lot, and I honestly, I only use my wrist to paint, and I've been told like that's the worst thing you can possibly do. But I have become so practiced with it, and that's like a part of my being and how I draw that I don't think it's that big of a negative. I would say practice both ways, and probably you want to go toward the route of working with your arm rather than your wrist. But if you're one of those artists that started with their wrist and have been doing it for years, and you just have been told like you're not supposed to do that, like don't feel like, oh great, like I've been doing it wrong all along, and now I have to switch over. Where I still am, maybe it's just because I'm stubborn, but I'm reluctant to switch back over because I feel like no, I'm comfortable doing this style of painting, and I don't think there's one way better than the other. One way might be easier, more productive in the long run, but I don't feel like you should look at your drawing style as lesser because you're doing it with your wrist than with your arm.
And for the love of God, stretch.
Yeah,
Stretch, stretch, stretch. That's so important. Shoulders, wrists,
knees and toes.
knees and toes. Do we have a scheduled time for these live streams?
Yeah, we do them every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time. Right now, we keep reiterating it for all the people joining in. It got a little messed up because of daylight savings time. Here in the States, it happened last Saturday. So for many of you, it is probably starting right now, or this is the normal time of when it usually starts. But we started actually an hour and a half ago. So once again, we apologize for the delay. And next week, just know we're going to start it at 2 p.m. Central Time.
Andrew asks, have you ever painted an afro? And if so, did you find it more difficult to do than hair that flows?
No, I actually find afros really fun. And especially with pencil drawings, if you guys have seen any of my traditional stuff, like I love just having like, if this guy had an afro, like letting the line weight kind of tell the story for you, where you don't even have to really fill it in or shade it that much because the line does the work for you and it's implied. So I actually really like drawing afros.
Yelena asks, do you prefer digital art or traditional art?
That is like the toughest question I've been asking myself recently. I don't know. I feel like I prefer both for different reasons, and it's tough because I feel like right now I would probably want to do more traditional stuff, but maybe it's just because I feel like I've hit a comfort zone in traditional where I really like the output that I'm creating. So I just want to like pump as many as I can out. Where in digital, I feel like I've definitely hit a plateau, but only recently, like, and when I say recently, I mean like this morning, do I feel like I really want to push my digital work again to the next level because I think I'm finally ready to get over my next hurdle, which is working faster and working more on an impressionistic level first, and then letting my refinement skills take over and um, I guess just become an overall more efficient digital artist.
I was gonna say if you can see the positives to each medium, then I mean, digital art is essentially just another medium, you know?
True. Yeah.
So if you can pull the positives from it, then do it.
And you are good.
Don't become one of those people that's like, well, the future is scary, so I'm not going to use computers, you know?
Oh yeah. I definitely think you need to, even if you feel like, well, there's some artists that work for DreamWorks that only do traditional. Like, trust me, that's like a 1% of the entire field today in our career.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, like there's so many things that traditional can teach you that digital can't, but
I know, which is also very true. Right? I actually think you can learn more in traditional than digital.
I know it's just so like double-sided or double-edged sword.
Hmm.
Andrew Pullen says, "Thank you guys for sharing all of your wisdom. I'm actually a programmer and this video has been helpful in that area of life."
Awesome. I'm glad you came to watch.
Yes, you're welcome. And you guys teach us stuff too, so it's not just a one-way street.
Hmm. Like learning that Guten Tag means good morning or good afternoon. Oh shoot, did I forget?
It means good day.
Good day. Thank you,
Yeah.
Joe. At least one of
Yeah.
us has a good short-term memory.
Do. Dylan, I have quite a few brushes, and I feel like each one of them gives what I'm doing something different, but I struggle with deciding which to use. I know it's a silly problem. Should I just chuck them out the window and only use one like you?
No. I feel like I hinder myself by sticking with only one, where I should be bouncing around a few for whatever the piece that I'm working on or the area that I'm working on. Like on some of this, I probably should just pull my circle hard edge brush to give it that crisp edge. I think sometimes laziness will set in and you find yourself sticking with one brush. Not that that's a bad thing, because I think you can definitely create anything with just one brush. But there are areas where if I want to be more efficient as an artist, I should be switching if there's a different brush that I know is better for the job at hand. I think it's good to be at least pretty confident and comfortable in a few different brushes. So like maybe have like 3 or 4 that you feel like you're super confident that if you're given that brush, you can draw anything in, and then you'll just know in the back of your mind when you could use a different brush for different areas.
Yeah, I mean you can totally get over like everyone has like brush packs now that they give out on DeviantArt and stuff, and
Yeah,
it's so easy to be overwhelmed by like some of those packs, you know?
but really those are such specialty brushes usually.
Yeah.
The only ones that I really think I've really actually used after I've downloaded and tried them out was a fur and hairbrush, where I was working on a creature at the time, and it was like a godsend. So there are times where I'm like, yeah, they help out, but then I haven't used it since because I haven't done a creature. So I really think it depends on what you're working on and not relying on that brush too much, where you don't want to rely on specialty brushes. You want to rely on the basics.
Yeah, I think my paint tool Sai, I've got like 3 to 4 brushes, and they're all keybound. So it's like,
Right?
Ooh, Sydney says, I've heard some painters putting a hint of green in the whites of eyes to make them complement the reds in the skin. What do you think of this?
I've never actually heard that before, but that makes sense to me. Maybe I'll try that
Actually,
sometime.
yeah, I learned that last night when I was doing the Ripon studies. I noticed
Really?
that he was using, yeah, I did a self-portrait last night too of a picture that I took of myself, and
Huh.
I noticed that it was like blues and greens, and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Uh, Beazle Butts asks, related to your previous question, how do you go about painting peeled skin, like when you get sunburns?
Man, you guys are looking for specifics. What I would do is I wouldn't probably change too much of the opacity or boldness of it. Let me see here. I'm gonna grab a white. Imagine if like this part of his skin was peeling off. Probably have it. I mean, this is almost like borderline horror. So like you don't want to make it uh, look affected or injured. When you're doing skin peeling, you want to keep it more light. I don't even know how well you can see this. This actually looks kind of strange because I'm not even finished with my head yet. But I would probably have it look something like this.
Ugh.
And I really need to clean up the area around it though, or else it's gonna look super weird. Because you have to imagine like crumpled up on itself. I'm almost imagining like if someone was peeling it off right now, like if someone's fingers right here. This is really gross. I am
I
sorry.
know. Oh man.
You guys asked for it. I don't know. I'm just doing what you guys say. That's what I would probably do. Oh man, I cannot stand how I did this person's eyes.
I don't think I've ever even thought about painting peeled skin before.
Neither have I, to be completely honest. I've done like spit and stuff, but not peeled skin. So that would probably be
Hello.
my undercoat for this. Oh, sorry, you go.
Fan from Brazil here. Keep doing the great work. Your techniques are amazing. Do you think it is good to start directly in Photoshop? Uh, is there any digital painting program that is good for starters? Thanks.
Yeah, I would think, you know what, Mischief is actually probably the best for starters because they really filter out anything that's like extreme or excessive. So I think that's a great program for beginners. Um, but I don't want to just throw Photoshop under the bus though, where you can learn everything in Photoshop without getting too technical or too deep into it. Which, I mean, the free course that I'm creating right now, which will be out next week, will go into the Photoshop basics and what pretty much the understanding you need to know to get going in Photoshop without feeling overwhelmed or like you're not sure what to do. So I'll give you the full synopsis of like, here are the only things you need to know about the top menu. Here's how you add and create or take away loading windows, things like that.
That and Photoshop is so universal.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Like the UI is tons and tons of programs just use the same UI.
Take from it.
Um,
I'll go for like 10 more minutes and then we're going to cut off the stream.
okay. Stefano asks, if I do digital painting and shade everything in black and white and color later, will that be a problem if I start working traditionally?
Shade everything black and white. No. No, I don't see why that would be a problem.
I was gonna say it's just like using pencil and charcoal.
Yeah. No, I think you're good. Don't overthink things. You're good.
Christian asks, who is drawing there?
What?
They're asking who's drawing.
Oh, Tim, me. Hello.
How do you correctly pronounce your name?
I never say it online.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I go by Von though.
James Smith says, hello, Tim. What was the surprise for the year, or did I miss it?
Surprise?
I don't know.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Uh,
I know that we have a few surprises cooking in the CG Cookie Bakery right now, but I'm not allowed to take it out of the oven yet.
free hugs when you go to the convention. That's the surprise.
Oh yeah, actually, if any of you will be in the Midwest area in April, both of us will be at C2E2, and there's like a whole slew of cons after that we'll be at.
I will give you a free hug. Ooh, this is a good question from Enrique. A question for both of you. What do you guys think about over rendering for beginning digital artists? What do you guys think? Should I make more drawings with a simpler render first?
That is a good question. To be honest, I think it's good to do both. Where I think I was one of those stubborn artists that I was like, I'm gonna only draw my own thing, and I'm not gonna practice, blah blah blah. And I think I was able to teach myself a lot of fundamental stuff through original illustrations, but I also did simpler stuff on the side. So I had two uh, internships while I was in school, and both of them were for more simple stuff, very like 2D pixel, uh, almost bare basic stuff. And I learned a lot from that, like just as much as I did from the full-blown illustration. So I think it's good to dabble in both, because as long as you're drawing, you're going to learn something, and that's really the key to becoming a better artist. And then making sure you're learning from it. You're not just recycling your own skill level.
I don't think I've ever over rendered something. I think usually because I've come from a cartoon and like comic background, so I've always done like cell shading, and then recently I've been doing those master studies, and those aren't even that heavily rendered.
Yeah,
So
I've definitely over-rendered many things. I think it just comes when you want to keep improving it, but there's a point where you're actually hurting it rather than improving it.
oh, this is a good one. I kind of want you to do this for the red picture. How do you work with non-realistic skin colors like a person with green or blue skin?
Yes. You know what? And maybe I'll do that right now because I'm already way over my time limit for what I should be. Let's see if I can find it. I took a picture of this earlier because I wanted to do it. Yes, okay. So we're going to do a study of skin with irregular lighting. Let me crop it out.
Ooh.
It's the Lana pic. If you don't know who Lana is, she's my muse. Okay. So I'm going to recreate this to the best of my ability quickly. I'll try not to go too long on the stream. I want to thank you guys for sticking with us for so long. And once again, I apologize for the time zone difference, something that I think completely escaped both me and Joe's mind. Okay, Lana. Let's see here. So the first thing I'm going to do is quickly create a backdrop for her. These studies are really fun to do. So like if you want to do something like this for yourself, like if there's a music video you really like or a movie, like either still frame it or capture the screen while you're watching it and just do the study for yourself. And this is one of those things where you might learn more than you expect to, where maybe initially it was meant to be more just as a fun thing, but you'll probably learn more than you expected to. Okay. Okay, Lana. So, okay, when I initially look at this, I think I'm going to break it down into doing a quick edge out like we did for this guy, because going straight into color, I want to keep the proportions a little accurate, or a little more accurate than I might if I just went purely blind on it, because since this is a real person, you want their likeness to be replicated to the best of your ability. Like I think it was last week, I tried doing a Natalie Dormer one, and it looked horrible. And it was one of those where I don't think I took the necessary time to really give it the accurate proportions first, and then delve into the color.
People are saying, I love the longer stream.
Oh, good. This is actually the first time we've gone, because this will probably go another 20 minutes if I really want to showcase what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I'm gonna run to the bathroom really fast. All
All right, no problem.
right, I'll be right back.
I'll look on.
Oh, really fast question is,
I was gonna say, could you ask me? I was like,
coffee or tea, which do you prefer?
tea, and I actually have some right in front of me, which I'm gonna take a sip from.
And then,
Actually, truth be told, I've never had a full cup of coffee ever in my life, so I don't know if it's fair for me to say that. I don't know if I've given coffee a fair chance.
I may or may not have a caffeine addiction, and I love the smell of coffee, so
Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
love
go
the
with
smell of
coffee.
coffee. That I agree to. Like walking through the grocery store when you pass the coffee aisle. Yeah.
Of course, I was just like, I need to go to the bathroom when we start talking about drinking
All right, go to the
coffee.
bathroom. I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere.
All right.
So if you guys are wondering what this is from, it's from her music video Ride. It's probably if not my favorite music video ever. It had just a lot of color play in it. I love the storytelling, the camera, whatever. But there are a lot of depictions of color like this where it's very unusual lighting. And usually you get that in like stage shows. So if you ever watch like a live band or something, you'll get those irregular colors like blues and greens and reds, and they're usually done in spotlights and it's indoors, so you're not getting any natural lighting at all. It's very, very abstract, which is uh, interesting when you see the result. Like the skin colors on this are very, very abnormal. I feel like I should be quicker at drawing Lana since I've drawn her like 7 times before. But she has definitely an interesting facial structure that I try to make sure I get every time. Actually, maybe while Joe's absent, I'm just going to listen to Ride in the background as my motivation here. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go without talking for a little bit.
Okay, I'm back. Did you die?
Oh, geez, I just turned on the song. Okay. All right, I'm good.
I just heard it was like super silent. I was like, uh-oh.
I was going to turn on a song, so I was like, I'm going to just work super fast. And when I say that, I mean pretty slow, because my fast is still pretty slow.
Uh, Mike asks, how do you make the colors pop when drawing the eyes?
Definitely contrast, and then being very careful where you place that highlight on the eye itself. And then making sure that the white part of the eye isn't like too intense, where sometimes that can be distracting.
Also, are you ready for the new Daredevil show?
Maybe I'm not a big superhero guy though.
I'm
So
freaking pumped.
it looks good, and I actually trust Netflix originals quite a bit. Like, I don't know if any of you have seen Orange is the New Black or House of Cards, but I really, really enjoyed both of them. So I'll probably end up watching the new Daredevil.
Not a question, but hi, Tim, from Brendan Watley.
Hello. Wait, from Milwaukee?
Watley.
Oh, Watley. They
Yeah.
said from Milwaukee.
Love Jinx says, darn, I want a free hug, but I won't be able to go.
Well, future conventions. We'll be at plenty of them, especially next year.
Blake says, anyone else think Tim and Joe should live stream on Twitch? They don't have to take questions, but we could just watch them draw.
I legit was going to start up my Twitch thing tonight. So yeah, if you're interested, Tool. I'm pretty sure mine is twitch.tv. I want to say it's Von Art. I'll have to double check on that though. Okay, Lana, I might have to not care if you look perfect, sorry, but I'm gonna get into the color theory. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is lay out my colors bold and not worry so much about it looking perfect. I'm gonna use that liner that we just created as a guideline, but that doesn't mean I have to follow it 100% either. Like I already noticed that my lines on the left are way too far from the face, so it should be more pulled in.
Matthew asks, will you be at MegaCon in Florida in April?
No, the only one in April I have is C2E2, and then May is like crazy. Where if any of you will be at Spectrum in Kansas City, Missouri, I will be there. Anime Central in Rosemont, Illinois, and what's the other one?
Is there a MightyCon?
No, well probably, but and in Minneapolis in Minnesota. So if you are in any of those states and are going to those conventions, come and say hi. I'm gonna do these on new layers. Her skin definitely is like that blue palette. So I'm gonna first just lay out a really heavy blue and then build upon it. So now I'm going a little more specific. So I don't even want to touch that red. That red is gonna be more of like the last thing I add on, where I don't want that to be one of the initial because that's more of like a highlight edge detail that I don't want to do too soon because I want to make sure my foundation is rock solid before I build up any details like that.
Tim, do you play LOL?
I do. You know what's funny though is I haven't played in like 3 months, so I do, but I haven't recently. But I like League of Legends, so I could always hop on for a game or two. I'm definitely paying focus to the area around the hair, and you can see how there's like a slight gradient. Oh, the other thing, Joe, so while you were gone, I was talking about irregular lighting settings where usually for like stage shows or anywhere it's indoors where there's a bunch of unnatural light, you're going to get these color schemes that are unrealistic, but it really showcases the forms of the face without it really being anything close to what would be considered skin color.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. She's like a Navi from Avatar.
But the challenge is to make it look not like a Navi, to make it look like a human just in unnatural lighting. And then make it look like it's not an abstract piece either.
Joker Ace X says, doesn't Concept Cookie already have a Twitch page set up from like a year ago? Why not use the same channel?
It does, but since I mean, as much as I like to affiliate myself like 100% with Concept Cookie, I actually do not own Concept Cookie. I work for CG Cookie, and so I would love to do my personal streams on there, but I don't think it would be appropriate. But maybe, I mean, I'm sure Wes wouldn't mind.
Uh, the Acid Demon says, the followers on Tim's Twitch went from 0 to 14 in a blink of an eye.
Oh, is it Von Arts? It really is.
I think
If
so.
it is, I got really lucky. That was a lucky guess then. But yeah, I think if any of you are interested, I'm going to be working on this picture tonight. I'm going to try to do more of the ground elements since this is a problem. And I'll never be able to finish that piece if I don't just suck it up and just do the ground elements.
We really don't have any more questions.
I know everyone's like, well, I'm just going to watch now.
Oh, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. What do you guys think about that?
Holy hell, I love that quote. I don't know where you heard that one. Wait, change the currently answering.
What?
Right now it still says, hey Tim, are you ready for the new Daredevil show? Or that could just be me.
Oh yeah, I think you're just stuck on there.
I almost want to save that quote for later. I fully agree with that.
I believe he wrote another one that said the actual. He may have changed it though. Who said it?
I totally think there are. I'm not going to name names or try to make someone feel bad, but there are definitely people that I've noticed. Actually, I'm going to try to put this more broad. Um, those that work hard and are passionate and continue and are persistent, those are the ones that I tend to see are more successful than those that are naturally gifted or talented. Just because that passion will catch up to that natural talent that an artist that had that natural talent has. And they'll not only catch them, but they'll surpass them because by their passion is so strong that their talent is able to improve so much more quickly than the person that was just given natural talent. And this is a good point because I definitely feel like I was one of those people that people always associate natural talent with. I almost hate, or I don't hate, but I don't like that theory that you were born with it. Like I think that then disregards all the hard work that you put into it and all the individual learning because then it can be chalked up as, well, they can do it because they were born with it, but I can't do it because I wasn't born with that skill. But I see drawing like a trade, and just like it was in the medieval times, like it was something that you had to be taught and you practice and you learn, just like you would at a miner, or not a miner, a blacksmith or something. It was no different at that time. And I still think that that applies to artists nowadays, where those that work hard will be better than those that don't work hard. And it's just the ones that are perceived as naturally talented started at a younger age. And I think that's the big difference.
All right, so what's going on with Alana here?
Okay, so right now I'm just building up the values, and I'm doing that with the lighter blues in the face. I actually think they're probably at a similar value. Let me double check here. Yeah, very similar value. So I'm purely working off of hue contrast and saturation. So I won't go too much longer. I actually do think we should end it sooner than later. Maybe like 10 more minutes and we'll be done. But thank you guys for those that have stuck around for the longer stream. Like I said, I'll probably be streaming tonight on my own channel, and if that's something, if you enjoy watching artists while you work, or if you just like background noise, I can definitely be your background noise.
This is a question that we might need to tackle in a later uh, discussion, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
How do you draw things from your mind from poses or just clothing armor designs? I have a pretty good grasp on anatomy and things. I can look at a photo and replicate it pretty decently, but I have trouble coming up with things in my mind. Help?
So this comes down to I'm going to steal from Feng Zhu here, your visual library, where it might not be as strong as another artist, but that's like I don't want that to disappoint you or feel like a negative thing because you can definitely build that up, but you just probably have to use more reference and don't let that discourage you where it's like that's okay. Like I kind of feel sometimes my visual reference is weak, especially like in environments. I'm going to have to use reference because you know what? If I was myself, I don't have a very great visual library for environments because I'm so focused on characters all the time that I'm always analyzing and looking at people's features and faces. I'm not really taking the time to appreciate the beauty in landscapes. So it's okay if you can look at like, okay, I'm not too great at doing it from my mind, but you have to put yet at the end of that sentence. Because as long as you're persistent with your practice, you will get to the point where you're confident doing it. It just might be it won't actually. It won't be an overnight thing. And I don't know if any of you are excited, but the new Final Fantasy demo comes out next week, Tuesday. So I will definitely be probably a bit excited on Wednesday to talk about it. If any of you are going to get the demo as well.
So then, how are you handling these lips right now? Because someone asked, how do you draw lips?
So for the lips, now Lana's got, I would say, unique lips where her upper lip is very, but typically when I'm doing lips, if I'm doing guy lips, I try not to make that upper line too prominent at all. But if I'm doing more of a realism study like this, I'm looking at the contours of the mouth, but I'm not going to edge them out like that. You can see how I had the upper lip in one big kind of shape. I'm going to only edge out the separation line between the two lips, but I'm going to let the values kind of read strong for the actual shaping and where the lips end. Because when you look at lips, typically if they're not wearing lipstick, lips are very much in like the same value range as skin, depending on, well, it depends on the person, but like I think Lana has some kind of lipstick on in this one. So the values will probably be a touch darker. Then here I'm going to make the underside darker, but I'm not going to overdo it. I'm going to keep it lighter because if you make it too dark, it almost looks abnormal. Like it's like they're wearing black lipstick or something, and you don't want that. You want it to read more natural, even if it is still with lipstick on. Then the other thing is I try to keep the areas on the corners open, so like I usually don't connect this. You can see how it almost looks like there's eye or like a liner on the lip, where I like to keep it more open and give the impression of where it ends, like that. Okay, now I'm gonna try to work a little faster so we can finish this one off. But you can kind of see what I'm doing with all of this, and if I really wanted to, I might even spend maybe like another extra 10 minutes after the stream ends just to polish it up so that when I do the final marketing image, you can see what I created. But I would probably just amp up the subtle highlights that are going on her face to really amp up the forms. Now, the next thing is the hair. So we got this vibrant scarlet hair that's, it's not because her hair is actually red, and I think this kind of goes back to the discussion of how do colors that are irregular. It's the light and how it's mixing with the color of her hair bounced with the blue coming from the front. So the blue is giving the appearance of this very cool color on her skin and the front part of her dress. But on the back, she's very backlit with this heavy yellow and pink, and it almost looks like it might be a red light on the side, but you can definitely see there's some kind of yellow light in there as well. So then you have to mix those two, and you have to be bold with it, which admittedly, this isn't my strong suit. So I'm actually kind of curious to see how this turns out. I'm going to work. Oh, sorry, you go.
Leighton Skilled Gamers asks, can you confirm the Twitch name / time you will be streaming?
Yeah, let me do that really quick for you guys. It's one of these. Is it really too? Oh no, I deleted the old one. Okay, so that one is gone. Okay, I think this is me. The user has no bio. Well, that's wonderful. I'm almost positive it is Von Art, and I'll probably be streaming at 8 o'clock, 8 or 9 tonight, so in about 4 hours from the time right now.
Riku Silver asks, how do you get started with master studies? I have a basic idea of how to do them, but how do you pick what to study?
I think actually Joe would be the better person to answer this one.
Okay, so when you're going to do a master study, what do you find enjoyable, I guess, is the question. So like for me, I really enjoy portraits. I like seeing how artists tackle, especially like old man portraits, because their faces are so wrinkly and they have crevices, and then when a certain emotion is conveyed by the portrait, you can definitely see like how the manipulating of the face. I'm like stretching my face over here. Uh,
Even
you can
draws
see
portraits anymore. Come on.
you can see what's going on, and so pick something that you enjoy. So, like, say if you like doing environments, then obviously you would go about uh, picking master studies of uh, landscape paintings and whatnot. It's good to look at all of them, but since I like to focus on portraits, of course, I'm going to go look at a bunch of portraits.
And what would you say to the people that say you should be doing more than portraits?
Um, Relax, I'll get to it.
Yeah, never feel pressured to do something you don't want to do. And if you really feel like you want to improve your portrait drawing skills, then don't let other people influence you on moving to something that you're not as passionate about, because your heart won't be in it either. Where you want to really focus on what you do enjoy drawing.
That and a lot of things that I mean, no matter what you're working on, it can translate. Like you can
Totally.
understand how movement and flow works in a portrait, and you can adapt that to an anatomy study. You can adapt it to an environment study of how to lead the eye. I mean, you just have to be aware of what you're studying and why you're studying it.
Yep. All right, so I feel like I've got a pretty good start on this Lana pick. Maybe I'll just do the red under here. Now, admittedly, this is actually kind of tough for me, where I'm not sure exactly the right way to go about doing this, where this goes back to, I think, digital art and becoming a good concept artist is a lot about problem solving. So my initial reaction would be, well, I should lay down some reds, because that's what I'm seeing, and I usually work with a foundation color first and then build up on top of it. But this is a little tougher. Maybe I'll work more bold, keep it more impressionistic, because this is something I don't normally do, but I think that would work well for this. So experiment, and even if you're not comfortable with it, that's how you get better. You're not going to get better working in your comfort zone. Yeah, you might learn small things here and there, but it's really when you're outside of your comfort zone is when you grow your knowledge base. Oh, that's her skin there. Oh, okay.
I think this is like the last question.
Okay, last question.
How do I make my screen bigger on Photoshop?
You go, if you're on a Mac, it's Command plus. If you're on a PC, I think it's Control plus and minus. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if they mean how to zoom, if they mean like
Oh, how to
uh
make that canvas bigger?
yeah, I don't know.
If you want to make your canvas bigger, you can just go to Image, Canvas Size, or Image Size, depending on which one you want to do.
Sydney's asking, Joe, where can I see your work? Website, DeviantArt. Who is messaging me? Sorry. Uh, you can go on my Facebook. It's the, I think it's the Art of Joe Chico, or it might be the Joe Chico Art. Um,
Joe Chico art.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Art of Joe Chico. But yeah, go check it out. Go like my Facebook page. I'd appreciate it. And then my DeviantArt is J Chico, and Chico like boy, so Spanish for boy. Uh, and I have a Twitter account, but I don't update that. I should, and I should really get on Instagram, shouldn't I?
You should. Okay, so I can tell right here, I need to practice with backlighting because this is not as strong as it should be. But what I am proud of is the blue on the faces, and I definitely think I could work with that more. And I think we're gonna call it done because we went for 2.5, so that was way longer than it normally is. Next week will probably be a shorter one, like an hour and a half, like the typical one. But thank you guys for those of you who stuck around all the way through. Apologize once again for the daylight savings time mishap, but next week plan on 2 p.m. Central Time in America. So whatever it is for you, you might have to check that online. But we'll make a reminder when we post the live stream for next week. All right, well, thank you guys once again, and I think I gave away all the announcements earlier today. So stay tuned for the Getting Started series that we're recording right now for Concept Cookie, and I think that's it. And we got a couple more books in for art book reviews, so those will be fun. And yeah, that's all I got. Joel, any last words?
Uh, yeah, just keep painting, keep drawing. You know the drill. Get better. Study.
Get good. You can do it. You just got to believe. I really do believe a lot of it is mental, so you have to have confidence in yourself. All right, thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you next week, if not later tonight. All right, bye, guys.
Bye.